I was listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
On Ali Abdal's show, and he was like some coach who was like meditating for like 10 years. So that's what took away from that. 7 hours a day, pretty much. I guess
that's
the rest was pooping and sleeping. So
just poop, sleep, eat, meditate. How's he earning a wage?
He said he struggled a bit, and that's why he stopped and became a venture capitalist.
Jesus Christ, man, both extremes. Pick a middle ground, fuck's sake.
Unwaved Network presents.
This is Houston Controls. Take over backup. And we are good to go.
Rambles N Records.
Yeah, man. But anyway, you're back home now.
Yes, I'm back.
I saw you for a brief stint.
I know, that was nice, wasn't it?
It was great. It was wonderful. It was lovely to see you,
we had
man.
a real life beer and a real life bar and
real life pizza as well. And you give me a real life record, and we saw a real life gig. Although you missed the pit.
We did.
You missed the second gig with the pit, and I got pit wounds and everything. I got a pit pinch. I got the world's first pit pinch, I think. You know, most people get elbows to the head and knees and bruises and cuts. I'm out here getting a pinch. I don't know how it happened. Judas Priest breaking the law came on. Next thing you know, this guy runs straight towards me, and somehow, I don't think it was an intended, you know, you weren't coming at me like, you bastard. You know.
I'm glad that you came downstairs and quite eagerly showed me your pit pinch.
I did instantly, didn't I? I wasn't
pretty much straight
There
away,
was there's no subtlety. That was a good gig. I was the guy at the front of the pit that's not getting involved in the pit.
That's a fun game in itself, to be fair, standing in the front of a pit with a pint
and just seeing what happens.
How much you can
endure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was a good event. Good to see so many people out and about and supporting local bands.
Yeah, man. Great night. But yeah, right. What's going on, peeps? Welcome to another episode of Rambles N Records here on the Unwaved Network. So in this episode, I've kind of looked back within the month of July and just seen what's out there, what's being released, listened to a lot of new albums and got some recommendations. And then also I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics. I want to talk a little bit about the music around that and a couple other things, man. Yeah. So what are you bringing today, Bill?
I actually nabbed myself a little record in Birmingham, even though we didn't manage to do any crate digging like we were hoping to.
You kept that quiet. I thought, where'd you get that from?
You sound really upset.
No, I mean, obviously, it's no big deal, man. It's like whatever, and it now. Where'd you go?
No, I actually got it from Mother Studio.
They sell records?
So I'll No.
Okay. I'm fine now.
I'll explain it when I show you.
All right. Well, so Olympics has been on in Paris, and to be honest, like, I'm not a massive fan of the Olympics. Never really have been. But obviously, you can't not really watch some part of it in some way. And I do like the opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies. They always bring something different to the table. And it didn't disappoint with that this year. So music related, the opening ceremony I thought was really entertaining because Gojira performed and they kind of made history a little bit because it's like the first metal band to perform an opening ceremony, especially to that degree. Like, obviously the whole world's watching at that point, and I just feel like that was an unprecedented moment in metal music, definitely.
No, of course. I didn't actually get the chance to see the ceremony, but I did see a few headlines of Gojira opening ceremony, and that, it took me by surprise. Like, it's not something 100%. You'd expect.
And I was thinking, like, oh, it's going to be Gojira, but it's going to be really stripped down. They're going to, like, throw the book at them and go, look, do this, 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 and this. You better not do this. Be metal, but, kind of tone it down a little bit. But they went all in, man. My eyes were just fixed to the TV.
I can't imagine them playing it if they were going to have to turn it down. Like,
Yeah,
there just wouldn't be any point, would there? Like, you just get someone else to play it.
I thought, what's going to happen here? And it was everything you'd want in it. You know, the
Are
performance.
they French?
Yeah, I think they're the only French metal band in existence. Maybe.
I had no idea. I mean, I guess I wouldn't really, but yeah, that surprised me a bit as well.
I didn't until I googled it afterwards because it did cross my mind. I was like, yeah. I was like, are they French? Yeah. Okay, that checks out. But yeah, the performance, it was kind of like a tribute to the French Revolution.
Wow.
So it's got that history element to it. It was complete with digital imagery of a headless Mary Antoinette. It was great, man. And I just loved there was a bit of an outburst, bit of a reaction, people responding negatively. But ultimately, I think people's perspective of it was overall quite positive towards maybe an eye-opening metal performance that anybody could appreciate, to maybe give it more of a chance. So it was great, man. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay. Let's watch it real quick.
Rambles N Records.
Mate. You see the guy at the end? Wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
That was sick, though, to be fair. That was like, I mean, you know, if you're going to make a statement, how better can you do it than to get, like, the loudest band that you can find? And, you know, they're obviously very technical and musical, but the performance was great, and the setting was obviously very striking, and those blood fireworks at the end were mental.
Yeah, just a bit of blood, fireworks, mix it up. So, yeah, I think that's a good movement forward for metal music.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like kind of represents just how music has kind of evolved, and like the broadness of genres is just kind of more acceptable, like across different generations. Like, I guess if you looked at a parent's time, you know, something like that could have offended like a lot of people and caused an outrage. And I'm sure there were probably still people complaining at this anyway, but you know, it's people are just more open to different creative styles and different ways of expression now, I think, which is great thing to be a part of.
Yes. And there was a bit of a backlash with people that maybe weren't used to it, or because it had this historical thing attached to it. There was people going, well, there's so much culture in France, why have they chosen this to represent the whole country, like in terms of the historical culture recognition that they have, all the things that they're quintessentially famous for. I think it's because these sort of ceremonies are an opportunity to branch out on different cultures, subcultures, and you're seeing that more often, that diversity.
I think it's just a great way to make a big statement. Even if they'd managed to get Daft Punk, this is where you tell me they did play.
No, they didn't.
But
I'm surprised, actually.
Sure. Right, so even if they did manage to get Daft Punk to play or something, like, people would have been like, yeah, that's cool. But I guess it would be kind of expected. But, you know, like, and I guess, you know, that performance or even the themes that they're performing around were quite dark anyway. So, yeah, why not go for, you know, a dark band to represent that? In a way, it's probably more suitable to that kind of orchestral thing that they were doing than, like, say, a pop band might have been. Like, it felt a lot more unique than maybe what I'd expected from Olympic ceremonies.
I get what you mean. I think originally it's like, oh, you come out and you sing your national anthem and it's hand on the chest and it's everybody parade. It's all about the Olympics. Yeah. Now it's become your opportunity to show the world what your country is creatively capable of.
It is a unique opportunity when you're literally in front of the world to make a unique statement.
And that statement was made, man, like performing a French Revolution song on the prison where Mary Antoinette was condemned to death is probably as metal as it gets.
Yeah.
I'd say.
I'm sure the band were pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So that was cool. What else happened in the Olympics? You had Snoop Dogg with the torch.
Yeah, I
did
saw
you
him
see
with
that?
the torch. Yeah.
Like,
it's like, where did that come from?
Do you reckon that when they hired him, they were aware that the torch
What,
looks
they
like
hid-
a massive blunt. Do you think when they planned it, they were aware that like Snoop Dogg holding that torch is going to look like a massive blunt, and he's famous for just smoking weed? Or do you
You know
reckon
what?
it could be two things? It's either a really good PR stunt, like really cool, like yeah, fuck it, just get him in. That'd be funny, that would. Or they're like, oh shit, we didn't realise.
yeah. You know what? It didn't even cross my mind.
Oh, fair enough. That's just me then.
Till you just mentioned it. Even
Just
though,
look at
yeah,
the
it's such
pictures,
an
man.
obvious
Honestly,
thing. Yeah, mate, I saw the picture and you didn't even need to finish your sentence, and then I just pictured it again, and I was like, oh my god, that's. But
it's like he knows. Everybody knows, except France. You know. I think Pharrell did it as well, didn't he?
No, I don't know. What, he had the torch or he did a song?
He had the torch, and then they linked up and did a live performance of "Beautiful." I just want you to know you're my favorite girl.
Nice. That was a good rendition.
Thanks.
Did it sound just like that?
Did you actually get the actual song from that?
No. Was it called Beautiful by any chance?
I'm pretty sure it was. So we're halfway there. It would have been better if I just never opened my mouth with this situation, to be honest. Anyway, let's move on. Fuck. We got Snoop Dogg, Pharrell, lighting the torch. We got Gojira doing an epic, amazing performance at the opening ceremony. Like, I don't want to actually talk about the Olympics because this is a music podcast.
Did they introduce drumming into the Olympics yet?
No, not yet. That'd be sick.
Yeah, maybe I'll vow never to watch it until they do.
Nah, that's a good vow. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And we get a petition signed. Imagine like a stick trick event. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
That was me doing stick tricks, by the way. I wasn't having a fucking. I'm having a stroke. Not yet. Oh, Billy.
Yes.
We got some new releases on our hands. Okay. In the month of July, I actually think there's been some really cool releases. So I've done some digging over the last few days. Quite a mixed bag, you know, to sort of suit different genres. And I thought I'd maybe put the best of each on the playlist. So go ahead and check that out if you want to. By the way, we haven't mentioned as well, we're starting our second playlist in terms of what we're calling the Ramble tapes. We've compiled every song that we've mentioned in every episode up until now and neatly packaged them into a cool little playlist for you to all check out. So if you listen to one of our episodes and thought, oh, one of them songs was worth probably checking out, I hadn't heard that before, go to the playlist, check it out. The point of what I was saying was this will be the first entries to the new playlist. Okay, so new releases. Right. If you're a fan of psychedelic rock, psych garage, but more just psychedelic rock, a little bit more chilled, then Wand have released a new album, and they released it literally the other day on the 26th. The album is called Vertigo, released on Drag City.
Uh-huh.
It was really, really good. There was like no skips on it. Listened to it all the way through and really enjoyable.
What direction have they gone for with this one? Because I know that they started off a lot more heavier and kind of doomier, and they kind of shifted a bit more kind of dreamier and a bit more light.
Absolutely. It is that. So they're sticking with that sort of immersive ambient part of psych rather than that sort of real more gritty post-punk garagey sort of psych. Still got those sort of post-punk elements in there, but it's definitely more ambient, chilled, dreamy, like you say, yeah. So
No, Wanda have been one of my favourite bands over the years and stuff. And, you know, they're definitely good songwriters and musicians.
In their own right, 100%, man. Like, I've never really listened to like a bad song from them. I've never been disappointed or thought, oh, they've took a little bit of a creative avenue there that I didn't really like or whatever. But it's not what we said as well about Ty Segura. Like, he started a certain way, then he dipped through this and that, and during that time, whatever you're personally into can kind of change your perception on it, and then going back can sometimes change that. So, but yeah, that's a cool album. We're gonna pick a song off that. Check it out.
Rambles N Records.
Moving on, what else have we got? We have, if you're a fan of country or folk, I listened to an album the other day by Sturgill Simpson. He is a country sort of folk singer-songwriter, but he has this alter ego that he's brought out called Johnny Blue Skies, and the album is called Passage du Désir.
Is he French?
I don't think he's French, no.
Was he at the Olympics?
Nah, with Gojira. But like a country rendition of that of Mary Antoinette, like straight after. That would have been sick.
It wouldn't surprise me.
That would have been sick. Doing some work in the garden, and it come out. I seen that it got quite a good rating on Pitchfork, so I was like, "I'll check it out." Listened to it all the way through. It was great. Really soft, emotional sort of. I'm seeing like how it was explained as cosmic country.
Okay, well.
I guess that's a good way to explain it. Cosmic country.
Just sort of imagining
intergalactic country. 10-gallon hats in the stratosphere.
Yeah. Little farm in the asteroid belt.
Just cows fucking just doing their own thing. That's a cool album. Go check that out if that's your sort of bag. Billy, you're not really a countryman, are you? So much.
Nah, I'm not really much of a countryman.
Tell you the truth, I'd heard of Sturgill Simpson. Haven't really listened to much. But then I put that on and yeah, it's a good album. Check it out. It was released on July 12th on High Top Mountain Records.
Rambles N Records.
Right. If you're a fan of jazz blues, don't worry. We got you. Because I definitely recommend Jeff Coffin's new album. Now, it's called Only the Horizon. It came out July 19th on Ear Up Records. Jeff Coffin is a renowned saxophonist and composer, and he used to be in the Dave Matthews Band. The songs are like a collection of original compositions, and the album sort of fuses traditional African rhythms with contemporary jazz and R&B compositions. I think you would love it.
That sounds great, yeah.
Yeah, I think you would love it. That is your bag.
Really interesting. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll definitely have to check that out. What was his name?
Jeff Coffin. It's spelled like coffin, though. I don't know if it's coffin. Is it Jeff Coffin?
Has a throat infection.
Jeff Coffin. So the song I'm going to be putting in the playlist is Yelly Geechee.
Yelly Geechee.
Yelly Geechee. It's got Keb Mo on it. Sick. But yeah, I'll be popping that in the playlist. Yelly Geechee.
Got an interesting look. He
what,
looks
the cover?
No, just him.
Oh.
He's got an interesting
Jeff
look.
Coffin?
Yeah, yeah.
He looks like... Who's he look like?
He looks like he could be in like a metal
Judas
band.
Priest.
Yeah.
He does. But no, he was in Dave Matthews Band. That was like...
There's a picture of him here playing two saxophones at the same time.
Yeah, I've seen that's crazy, isn't it? Yo. Big up my man Jeff.
Yes, Jeff.
One and enough.
Rambles N Records.
Moving over to the world of indie rock now. Mac DeMarco has brought out a new track with 80s Italian disco icon Ryan Paris. Very similar to Pino D'Angelo. That sort of round, that sort of time, you know.
Yeah,
and then I found out some really sad news because we spoke about him. Pino D'Angelo, passed away on the 6th of this month.
No way.
Unfortunately.
Ah, man.
So yeah, that's shit, man.
That's a shame. When I was in Italy, he performed at the big music festival thing there.
I remember you saying. So what? It can't have been. It must have been sudden, like, you know. It was literally like...
Yeah, but I mean, you could tell he didn't look like a spring chicken, that's for sure. But, you know, he has this famous gravelly voice, so he got away with it.
But yeah, so Ryan Paris, very similar sort of genre style of music that he did in the 80s. And I don't know what brought these two musicians together, but... they have brought out 2 singles. I don't know if there's going to be an album to follow or something like that. But the singles are Still What I'm Looking For and Simply Paradise, released on the 12th of this month on Mac's record label. Very like laid back, mellow vocals. I thought it was Mac singing at the start. I was like, Jesus. Max had some like vocal coach lessons. because it sounds very similar to his voice.
Yeah, okay.
But it's very soothing, introspective, cool, chilled indie rock. So, cool. Go check that out if you're a fan of Mac DeMarco.
That does sound cool.
Rambles N Records.
Right, Britpop. Do you like Britpop? Well, Blur released a live album at Wembley. It was released on the 26th of this month. Released on Parlophone Records. From the critical acclaim of it, it's a good gig. Very nostalgic, triumphant. Capturing the essence of the band's iconic sound. Much more entertaining and emphatic than their Coachella performance, where nobody was giving a shit.
Was that from their recent Wembley performance? I think they play some shows last year.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Rambles N Records.
And finally, I'm going to be giving some entries of alternative rock. Dinosaur Jr. have brought out a new single, but it's a bit of a confusing one. It's basically in relation to the 15th anniversary of their album Farm, which came out 2009, I think. So it was the single Whenever You're Ready was released this month on the 10th, but that was a bonus song that I believe was unreleased previously on that album, and it's a cover of a Zombies song. So Whenever You're Ready on Jaguar Records. So that's pretty cool. Listen to that, pretty cool. Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains. He's bringing out a new album in October, and he's got a new single called Vilified, and it is very, very, very reminiscent of Alice in Chains' Dirt.
Cool.
Yeah, I heard it today. That was pretty cool. And then Kim Deal has got a new song out. So Kim Deal, known for work with Pixies, Breeders. She's got a song called Coast, and it's a tune, man. Like it's from it's released earlier this month, 15th of July, 4AD. It's an interesting song. I definitely recommend like checking that one out, because it's kind of got like a marching band in it. It's very like summer inspired. Kim Deal said the song was inspired by a wedding band she watched cover Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, who she described as displaying revelatory levels of low self-esteem. Inspiration comes in very mysterious ways. But what's cool as well, and something I want to segue off it, is that it was recorded by the late Steve Albini at his electrical audio studio in Chicago. And yeah, it kind of blends, because of that you can feel it, and it kind of blends Kim's signature sound with these like woozy weird horns and this kind of pavement style guitar leads. So it's a cool song, check it out. Segueing onto that, this month Chicago honoured the late Steve Albini by renaming the block housing his studio, electrical audio, to Steve Albini Way.
Cool.
It's located West Belmont Avenue in Avondale, Chicago. So that's cool.
Do you know what street I've got round the corner from me?
What? Was that just a genuine question?
Yeah, where do I live?
Wrong. You don't know.
I think we've got a Patrick Stewart Street.
No way. That's
Yeah.
sick.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, he hasn't died yet. But it's been there for a long time. So
It's just because he's alleged. Just because someone saw him once. Or just a bold man. And someone went, that's Patrick Stewart. Sick. So, yeah. Pixies are bringing out a new album, and they brought out 2 new singles from the album that came out last week. The singles are called Chicken and You're So Impatient. Chicken is like just classic, what you'd expect from Pixies, like very haunting, and it's like just Black Francis kind of like likening himself to an actual chicken who gets his head cut off, and it's very strange. But that is the song that I want to bring to the table this week. That is the best song that I've heard this month. Definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Pixies. The other single, You're So Impatient, I feel like they've blended the nostalgia of the old Pixies with this sort of fresh new creativity. And it's very... This other song's very off-kilter, sort of rock, a bit more up-tempo, bit more fitting to what you would expect modern day indie or alt rock to be.
Like, whenever I've heard new Pixies releases before, I have been a bit disappointed. So I think, like, when I heard that Pixies had new stuff out, like, it didn't really grab my attention that much. So, yeah, it'd be really cool to check it out.
The upcoming album will be called The Night the Zombies Came. It's set to release 25th of October. And, yeah, that's, I think, all we kind of know. But I did read... It's a 13-track LP, and it's going to be based around fragments related and juxtaposed like scenes in a movie. Very cinematic.
Okay, cool.
Sounds pretty good. That's going to be released on BMG, October 25th. So, yeah, we're going to get into Chicken now. Pixies' new single. 3, 2, 1...
Rambles N Records.
Yeah, that was cool. I can definitely see some of the cinematic qualities related to that. And there was definitely that kind of Joey Santiago signature guitar sound, I think, on there. It definitely
100%.
felt familiar. Like,
yeah, you heard sort of Joey's like sharp lead guitar on there.
Yeah. It's kind of like straightforward structure. It's quite simple, but like something about it is a little bit unpredictable, so it does have that eeriness to it.
Yeah. I wish they kind of went a little bit more crazy at the solo bit at the end. You know, like the bit where it kind of breaks down. There was more opportunity there for it to go a little bit,
remember
more elaborate.
I literally just, I remember that happening and I was like, wait, what? Was that just one note?
Yeah, it's a little bit underwhelming there, but still like a really good song as far as, as you say, it's got that simplistic element to it.
I've seen them live since, and I mean their show's still great, but
as I say, I do appreciate that kind of mix of creative values between the old and the new than what I've heard previously. So it's pretty good, man.
I guess it's difficult for any kind of band, especially one that has a reputation similar to the Pixies, to kind of try and make music, generations later. And then, because there is a certain level of expectation. You don't just want to be regurgitating the same stuff. But then if you don't, you're going to be disappointing a certain set of fans. I think it's a really tricky place to try and navigate. And, I'm not sure how many bands manage to pull it off successfully, but I don't think many do.
I think barely, any do.
I mean, this might not be relevant to all musicians, but I guess like a certain type of like rock or pop or alternative kind of musician, when you're working a regular job and you're kind of down on the ground at the same level as all the people, and you're at a certain level of understanding of the world as like your target audience, and probably that resonates a lot more. And then I guess if you get to the point where your full-time life becomes this show and you're on the road all the time and you're writing music all the time, I guess it becomes more difficult to have that same connection with the audience or everyday people.
Yeah you're not waking up seeing the inspiration that you would have gotten initially when you're down and out.
I guess
you're starting out. You ain't got the money, you ain't got the the notoriety.
I guess you still have inspiration, but I think the things that inspire you just might not relate very much to the people that were listening to you because you were singing about the things that they resonated with. The
material might be exactly the same, but because there's now this external factor and this realization that person is no longer living amongst what they started at, both, I guess financially, but also just in general, you feel like you can't resonate with the music as much.
I think there is an element of that with some bands that still manage to create interesting and intriguing ideas, but they might lose a lot of their appeal because the stuff that's inspiring them isn't stuff that their audience understands. And I think there is also an element of what you're saying of it becomes a job and you're just kind of churning it out, and yeah, probably there can be also a loss of like authentic inspiration as well for some.
Yeah. I think it's that thing of like, I imagine the analogy of like, say you've got a boss and he earns 10 times more than you, and he comes in and he's honest about that. You're not going to work as hard. Like, so because of that, the boss kind of hides that a little bit. And it's kind of like, what I mean by that is comparing it to a musician. If they're fully honest about what they're going through once they become successful, then people aren't going to appreciate the material that they're churning out as much. So they hide it and still act like they're relatable within the music that they're doing. I think it's not even about...
I guess some bands might do that, and then you can probably sense the dishonesty of it. And then there are other bands which don't do that, but then it's just like, you know, again, it's just harder to relate to because people just haven't had those experiences to relate to. You know, like when you start singing about the struggles of being rich and famous, that's just doesn't mean much to a lot of people.
It all depends. Certain genres don't get hit with it as bad, but some do. I think the backstory, the culture, we've talked about it before, in terms of like, it's not just the music, it's the backstory of the culture and the scene. And if that scene doesn't really gel well with the idea of having a really, really big house and a nice car, then it just completely muddies the waters of the overall expectation or that you have of the artist. You think, what are they doing when they go home? And once you get that in your head, I think you kind of connect it to the music, even though the music essentially, as far as hearing it, has got nothing to do with that.
But yeah, I mean, exactly. That's why I kind of started by saying this is kind of more relevant, maybe for more kind of like rock or alternative kind of artists, where there is like an element of having that, like that's just a normal person like me that has like the same problems as me. I can relate to that kind of thing. But, you know, yeah, like you said, that's not necessarily relevant in all genres or all types of musicians. You know, you might have very talented, I don't know, pianists or whatever, like a broad range of different musical styles where that's less relevant. But
you know what's shit, though? I just thought, what if you were a musician, like, say, for example, Pixies? Say 4AD absolutely screwed them over and they got 0 royalties for any of their songs, but they were still ridiculously famous, whereas My Mind was still on Fight Club. Everybody still knew them as that infamous kind of alt-rock band. But financially, they were still screwed. And then they come back desperately after all these years to try and make something, but it's literally just to keep their head above water. But then we would then be like, oh, you Pixies coming back for the cash grab, are you? Yeah, bet you are, yeah. Bet you're rich, go back to your mansions. And it's like they're just absolutely piss poor, really. Like, how awful would that be if, like, you get the worst of both worlds then, do you? Yeah. You never know, I guess. But.
Yeah, but I guess an interesting question that comes out of that is, like, how would their material be different? Like, you know, would that change the output? Because they still have those restrictions and limitations that sometimes can make a creative piece more fiery, I guess.
Yeah. Give it more substance. Yeah.
Because I think that's a big factor as well, you know, when you do have these limitations, you don't have access to all the fancy equipment, the studios, the hours on end, and the writing comes from, like, a more desperate place, or, like, a more heartfelt place.
Desperate but authentic. Creative, because art has that sense of desperation to it, I think. The desperation to be heard or listened or liked or appreciated, not as a person, but by the work that you're creating. And the backstory of that can conflict with it. But I think, as we've discussed before about how people are being more open and honest about how they're being treated by the record companies, we're knowing more of these juicy gossip backstories that's going on behind the scenes. And maybe pairing that new knowledge of the way that these musicians are maybe treated, and then they bring an album out, maybe that story and that narrative and the material can gel well together, because you understand maybe certain artists' frustrations outside of the music, and you pair it with the frustrations that they're projecting creatively within their music. Whereas before, there's a lot of, you wouldn't dare say that, you know? But now people have, it seems like a bit more free speech with it.
But there's an interesting thing I'm considering as well, though. Is like, I guess there is some art which comes from that place, but there is also some great art that comes from a very disciplined place where, you know, you get people who have the opportunity to study it and make it their life and do it from a young age. And you get these, you know, incredible artists that are able to produce stuff in all different fields from a very different places, not being like, oh, like I'm desperately trying to be heard, but like I am really great at what I do and I have this audience and I have to live up to that kind of thing.
I get where you're coming from. I'm talking about a singer-songwriter that's part of a solo act or band within pop culture or rock within the last 50 years. I'm not talking... If you was part of like an orchestra, that is not what you're about at all. I think a way to compare it would be like, I don't know, a street artist that doesn't want you to know who they are and a painter that wants to be put in a gallery. You know, it's kind of like the orchestral musician is the street artist and the gallery sort of painter who has their brand name attached to their art is the pop star, you know? So it all does depend what they come from. And yeah, I imagine the intrinsic values of an orchestral musician are nothing like pop stars. They don't care about what others think of their work, or they're part of a greater thing where it's multiple musicians playing all together. So
I think it's just an interesting thing to consider, you know, the different sources of creativity or expression. But I guess there's a whole spectrum of like different places. Like I think people have this tendency to be like, oh, good art only comes from dark times, and you know, great art can come out of hard times. But I don't know if it's exclusive. I think that's a bit of a sweeping statement that kind of discredits like a lot of good art that does come out of different situations.
I'd agree with that. I think we all naturally lean towards that thing of like pain and art are the same kind of thing. And, you know, I do think, though, that especially in your glory years and your youth when you're becoming an artist, there's positive outlooks of your art that can be just as entertaining or appreciative. Like, they don't have to be painful or sad or dark.
Yeah, I mean, and if I guess if either of us looked at any of the music collections, it's not all going to be sad, depressing stuff. Like, there's going to be a lot of happy and upbeat stuff in there as well.
Mine mostly is. Like 95%. But, yeah,
you know,
no, it's not.
You know, emotion is a whole spectrum. And,
yeah. It's an interesting concept, definitely something I want to discuss more in terms of a musician's lifespan and their work and how they get better, but almost we, as a listener, appreciate it less for the most part, statistically speaking, you know? Like, we rarely listen to a new album by an old band who released an absolute stunning first album. You hear their 15th album like 30 years later. There's not many times where you hear it and go, oh my god, what a banger. It's either the music is genuinely shit, which I don't think it's that, or psychologically we're putting it down before we've give it its grace.
I think most of the time you're right. I think a lot of the time the kind of the inspiration feels missing. That spark that made those first albums what they are just isn't there. Like, you know, you can hear that the songs are fine, the production is fine, everything on paper is fine, but it just doesn't really come together to make something exciting.
I think it's the image, not only in like a vanity way with youth and all that and how people get older, but it's like the overall image changes, and when it changes you disassociate a little bit. And it reminds me of when I first heard Pink Floyd. I listened to Dark Side of the Moon. It was like the weirdest album that I've ever heard. And I always associated Pink Floyd as like this thing, this creative thing, rather than these actual human beings. You know, because their artwork on the cover and the way they sounded was just like nothing I'd ever heard before. And then I seen like a live concert of them, and I saw them in person, and it's like some sort of rug had been pulled from me. All of a sudden, I'm seeing these real people playing these real instruments. And granted, it was a great show. Granted, the music was still great, and they had some really good lights, and you know, it was a cool show. But I'd felt like almost like, I don't know, like something had been taken away a little bit, and maybe it's that in seeing a musician get older, or seeing the kind of scene that they were a part of change.
That's an interesting perspective. But I guess I can say that I've had the same sensation just from hearing a song without any kind of concept of image. From a band that's maybe been away for a while and then come back later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure.
Interesting. Music. Right.
Alright, so I got myself here a copy of Hoopla Blues album Planted.
Okay.
So Hoopla Blue are a Birmingham band. So I know them from seeing them in Birmingham and from the studio where I used to rehearse. So this was I believe it was their first actual like proper album, full on released. And I know that they're a hard-working bunch of lads, and they didn't put a lot of work into getting this ready. And then, just as they were supposed to release it, the pandemic struck. So they had, they struggled to kind of get the release they had in mind for it. But I think they're a really great band. I think they're probably one of the hardest working bands in Brum, and now deserve a lot of credit. So firstly, just appreciate the nice coloured.
Look at that. I can't tell, is that like red, or is that...
Yeah. It's
like a blood red.
Bright red. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the release was mystery coloured. So I think each
you never know what you're going to get.
Colour.
That's cool. I like that.
So this was released on the label Foma, which is run by a couple of the members of the band. They recorded and produced it in a remote cottage, possibly in Wales, if I'm not mistaken. I remember chatting to them around about the time that they would have been recording everything. And it was mastered at Metropolis Studios in London. They've had quite an impressive history of gigs as well, so they've supported the Flaming Lips and Mac DeMarco. They're like a full package. They're like really like good musicians, like they're good songwriters. They, produce their own stuff, and it sounds great. The recordings sound great. They sound great live. It's like well orchestrated. But so they released this back in 2020, and I managed to nab myself a copy when I was visiting Birmingham. So I wanted to share with you a video that they released as a single off this record.
Nice, man. That's cool. I'm really excited to hear it. So is that the one that you got from Mothers?
Yes. They also released another album last month, actually. I haven't heard it yet, but I've heard a few of the singles off it, and they sound really cool. So I'm thinking maybe we can see if they want to have a little chat with us at some point on the pod.
Definitely.
Maybe we can have a chat with them about their new record.
Let's get them on the pod. We'll do a listening pie.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we're going to go back to 2020. We're going to listen to a song called Scour, which is one of the singles they released off the record. Just send you the link.
Give me that link. All right, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So this is Hoopla Blue with Scour. 3, 2, 1.
Rambles N Records.
Yeah, so that was Hoopla Blue with Scour.
Oh, I really enjoyed that, man. Yeah, that was good. I liked it. Like, it almost had this progressive element to it. Halfway through, I think it was like 1 minute 50 in, it just all becomes stripped down and changed a little bit, and I love that part in the middle.
They're obviously like good musicians and good songwriters, and their production's always top notch.
Yeah.
And I can tell they're really hardworking as well. They're always on top of it. So I'm really looking forward to checking out the new album as well.
No, it's good to hear, man.
A little bit of trivia for you as well. I think the photography on the album is done by Sam Frankwood.
Oh, nice. I thought you was about to say you was the one behind that like little moon thing.
No.
Yeah, it'd be good to reach out to them and maybe see if they want to discuss their music a bit more.
Yeah, man. No, I think they'll be up for it. The drummer has an interesting ability to smell ingredients in microwave meals. Before, when I was at work.
Okay, I need to hear more about this.
One time I was preparing myself a little meal at work in the microwave, and he was like, "Oh, is that a scent of like Merlot in the bolognese?" And I was like, and then checked the ingredients, and it was there. And I was like, Jesus, wow, fair play. Maybe
get him on the pod. I'm thinking get him on the pod.
Smell my dinner from Malta.
Smell my dinner. Oh yeah, that's not gonna work. Or I'll meet him. God, that'd be awkward. Haven't met him before. Mate of a mate sort of thing. And it's like, you're right, yeah. Billy told me about you really good smelling. Smell this. Fuck, that's not gonna happen.
That's gold.
No, it was great. Liked it. Feel free to check out our playlist for all the other songs we've mentioned on all the other episodes on our Spotify. We'll go ahead and start putting the songs we've mentioned today in a new playlist as well. Follow our socials, because nobody follows them, and it makes us sad. No, that's not a good way to say it. If you want to...
We don't care about our socials.
Like, if you want to follow it, like, follow it. If you don't, we don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. If you do want to follow it, then
we don't look at it. I've never ever looked at it. So
we've got socials. What?
We got what? I don't even think we have actually. You know, somebody go check. If somebody's listening, like go check and maybe like follow it to see if it works.
Don't check, because it will be full of like really interesting secrets and stuff that you're not supposed to know about.
Secrets. Oh shit.